Ever find yourself, I don't know, like scrolling through a blog and suddenly, bam,
Yeah.
nostalgia wave. But, and here's the thing, for a place you've never even been, happened to be with Random Island, this blog I found.
Okay, intrigued already. Random Island. That's
Yeah.
like both a real place and the blog's name, right?
2 for 1. It's off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada, if you could picture that. But the blog itself, it's like someone bottled up that small town, growing up rural vibe.
Yeah.
Universal. You know,
And the author, you said his name was?
Peter Smith.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's clearly tech savvy. Like, you don't write a blog without some skills. But there's this undercurrent of love for the simpler times woven right through.
That push and pull, right? We're bombarded with the new, but the familiar. That's where the heartstrings get. It's like, even if we haven't lived that life, these posts, they're like tapping into some collective memory we all share.
And the objects he talks about, wild. Yardsticks, for example. I mean, yeah, measuring height, sure, but apparently everything. Like snowdrifts, propping windows open.
Okay, hold up. Propping windows with a yardstick. See, this is what I mean about a different era.
Right. Plus, he's got old lunch cans, those icy cup decorations. You name it, it's like a time capsule exploded.
Don't tell me. They weren't just for sipping on a hot day, were they?
Nope.
Yeah.
Flattened them, strung them up as decorations, resourcefulness, you know. But the one that got me, this is peak make and do, a button can.
A whole can for buttons.
Dedicated button storage. Imagine that. Makes you think how different our relationship with stuff is now, right? Lost button. Trash the shirt. Back in. Opportunity.
And it speaks to something deeper, too, don't you think? Not just practicality, but a whole mindset. Mending, valuing what you have. That button represents a different pace of life.
It's so true. Speaking of, there's this part where he's talking about the yardstick again, measuring his height on the wall, which, hello, childhood flashback, but then just casually mentions using it for the snowdrifts or to prop open a window.
Suddenly, that yardstick's gone from nostalgic to essential survival gear. We romanticize simpler times, but those posts, they remind you, folks were clever.
Makes you think, what'll future generations find weird about how we did things?
Our phones, probably. They use that for everything. Communication, entertainment, measuring. Bet they'll be in a museum someday right next to the yardstick.
Okay, now that image is both hilarious and kind of creepy. But speaking of tech, Peter, this blogger, total self-proclaimed geek. Even way back then, there's a whole thing about his CCM Targa bicycle, 10 speeds. He's describing it like it was a rocket ship.
Which, compared to what came before, probably was. That's the thing about tech, right? It's all relative. Today's mind-blowing is tomorrow's how'd they even live.
Oh, for sure. Like, he's talking about practically having to be a mechanic just to change gears, and now e-bikes practically ride themselves. But it wasn't all high-tech, right? He also talks about riding that bike to the local arcade, dumping quarters in the machines.
Double nostalgia whammy. Arcades themselves are practically mythical creatures now, plus that simple act of just riding your bike because you could.
It does make you wonder, are we losing those experiences or just reshaping them? Do kids today even want to go to an arcade, or is it all online gaming, VR headsets?
Which brings us to flankers, as Peter called them. And no, not the basketball team kind. He's describing more than just what you see, but that whole sensory experience, like being out on a frozen lake, the wood smoke smell, the feeling of the air.
Okay, see, that's where it clicked for me. Not just objects, but how they become this gateway to something deeper, you know. Our senses, our connection to nature. Primal, almost.
And how those details get so tangled up with memory, they can transport you right back. Think about it. What are your flankers? What's that instant rewind for you?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I'm already digging through the memory banks here.
Yeah.
But back to Peter. He goes on to describe this really vivid memory involving flankers, a bike crash, and this family friend named Gary who swoops in. It's kind of amazing, right? How someone just, I don't know, being a decent human being can stick with you like that.
Yeah.
But what got me about this whole Gary memory is Peter doesn't shy away from the other side of nostalgia either, you know, the bittersweet stuff. Losing his dad, feeling like a visitor in his own hometown even when he's there.
Right, because it's never just sunshine and roses, is it? Memory's got layers, loss woven in with the good stuff, and time. Time changes how we see things, even the people and places we love most. That whole nostalgia thing, it's more like a whole tapestry of emotions, not just one thing.
And sometimes, even the memories themselves get kind of fuzzy around the edges, you know. He's got this bit about getting in trouble with his elementary school music teacher, but can't for the life of him remember what for. Just that she made him write lines on the chalkboard.
Classic. Our brains are funny like that. Some details, they stick. Others, Not so much. It's like the feeling of it all, the overall vibe that wins out over the specifics, which I'd say is what makes those sensory flankers so powerful. They bypass all that logical brain stuff and go right for the gut.
Totally. Speaking of memory triggers,
Yeah.
ready for this one? Wrigley's gum, but not even the gum itself, the Bach XES. He's talking about taping them together to make these elaborate decorations, like seriously elaborate.
See, that's inspiring. Resourcefulness right there. What's one person's trash is another person's art project.
Puts our modern DIY to shame, doesn't it? We're out here searching Pinterest for the perfect mason jar, and he's building masterpieces out of gum wrappers. But, okay, back to Peter. Gotta say, this one surprised me. He played basketball in high school, like on the team.
No way. The nostalgia blogger was a basketball star. Didn't see that coming.
Well, not exactly star. He was, by his own admission, not athletic. But somehow, he made the varsity team. Says it was more about proving something to himself than anything else.
Love that. There's a lesson in there somewhere, right? Pushing past your own self-doubt, even if you're the underdog in the room. Everyone loves a good comeback story, and sometimes WE get to be the comeback.
And it's not even always about, actually becoming the best, is it? He talks about finally scoring a basket, the whole team going nuts, even though he was, quote, the resident nerd.
Oh.
It's the belonging, right? That feeling of being part of something.
100%. Those moments of connection, shared experience, that's the good stuff, the stuff you carry with you. The bus ride home after the game, bad singing along to whatever's on the radio.
Makes you think, though. What are we doing now? That'll be those memories years down the line. What do we look back on all foggy-eyed and be like, man, those are the days?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And maybe the push we all need to just be a little more present, savor the supposedly boring stuff, because one day it'll be gone.
One thing that really gets me about Peter's writing, it's how he nails the feeling of a place just with these little details. Like, he describes these old wooden bridges they had on Random Island, saying they always felt cool and dark, even in the middle of summer.
Isn't it funny how some places can just, I don't know, hold on to those sensory memories? The way the light hits a specific smell, it gets stuck with the memory itself.
Right. He even remembers the smell of creosote baking in the sun on those bridges. I mean, who remembers that? But then it takes you back.
Smell is a superpower, honestly. Straight to the emotional part of your brain, no detour. Skips the logic and hits you right in the feels.
No kidding. Okay, get ready for this one. Total childhood flashback, but also kind of speaks to how the little things stick with you. Peter's talking about those old metal lunchboxes, the kind of everyone had back then. So his dad and a coworker, they accidentally swap lunchboxes one day, right? And he has to ride his bike over to return the wrong one.
Sounds like a simple errand, like a million kids have done. What's the nostalgia twist?
Well, this being Peter's childhood, it wouldn't be that easy. He hits some loose gravel, takes a tumble, scrapes himself up good. But what he remembers most is this guy, Gary, sees the whole thing and just stops to help him.
And boom, core memory unlocked. Those little kindnesses, sometimes from people we barely knew, they stick, don't they? Just human connection right when you need it.
And it's not even like it was just that one time either. He talks about Gary being this larger-than-life figure, always there to lend a hand. You can tell it really meant something to him, even all these years later.
Makes you think about the impact we have, right? Not just the big stuff, but those everyday moments. Offering a hand, a kind word. You never know who might be holding on to that.
It's a good reminder to pay attention, to those little opportunities. You might be making a memory without even realizing it.
Truth. Sometimes the most meaningful memories, they're the ones you'd never expect.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Random Island. What a trip down memory lane, even though it wasn't even our lane, right?
Right. We've covered it all, haven't we? The way objects hold on to memories, how our senses play into it, that bittersweet nostalgia, the whole deal.
And as much fun as it's been reliving Peter's past with everyone, I think the real takeaway here is it's got me thinking about my own Random Island, What are those things I hold on to, those stories I need to tell?
That's the beauty of it, right? It's not just one blog, one guy's memories.
Yeah.
It's universal. We've all got them.
So, to everyone listening, take some time to do a little digging in that memory attic. What are the things that matter to you? What are those sensory flashbacks that take you back? Trust me, it's a journey worth taking.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, keep exploring those memories, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.